What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the show. My name is Adam. I am your host. I am bringing on a very special guest here, someone who was part of the Tops 2020 project, a sports designer, someone that is very talented in that field. Blake Jamieson, how are we doing today?
Doing great. Thanks, Adam.
That's awesome. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, but on my Instagram post, I actually want to give you some props here. I think two of at least my top 10 from that Tops 2020 project were actually two of your cards. The Nolan Ryan and then the Mark McGuire were two that I thought you did a really phenomenal job. And I mean, the Nolan Ryan, I think, was actually third on that list. And that was one of the first ones that came out that I was actually like, wow, like these artists are doing a really great job. So, definitely want to give you some props on that.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, those are two of my favorites as well.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, it's great to hear. So how did you, I have a graphic design background, and sports design has kind of been something that I've done in the past, moving into sports cards here, but like the sports design background, kind of how did you get started doing that? I guess maybe talk about your design background, and then sort of how'd you get into sports?
Sure. Well, I have a marketing background. Before I was a full-time artist, I actually quit a pretty moderately successful career in digital marketing to pursue art full-time at the age of 30. So I'm 36 now. I've been doing it for 6 years. And so from the marketing background, I knew that it was important to, with my art, focus on a particular niche. And sports wasn't the first one I had chosen. I actually was working with a lot of startups and tech companies and offices. And while I was delivering art to a client, I met this guy who is a ex-NFL player and a current manager of players. And he really liked my work and kind of essentially helped me get my foot in the door. It was doing some paintings for free at first to get it in front of the right clients. And, exchange for that, have a little bit of social media promotion, a little bit of clout and credibility, and just kind of leverage that, throughout the NFL first and then into other leagues. And it was actually work of mine that I had done for a lacrosse league, Premier Lacrosse League, that one of the Tops employees who's a lacrosse fan had seen. And that's how he kind of found my work and invited me to be part of Project 2020.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. So the work you were doing, was it mainly one-offs, or are you kind of like with the Premier Lacrosse League, Paul Rabel's league? I'm a big fan of how he kind of runs that whole organization. It's super cool. So I'm interested to hear like what was actually I didn't really know that. So what was the work that you were doing for that league?
So it was actually a picture of Paul.
Oh.
And then I did one for Michael as well. And so they have them like hanging in their office in LA, like behind this desk that they're always filming content on. And so like that gets a lot of exposure, which is great. I forget where I was going with that, but yeah, I mean, basically like those were the first lacrosse portraits that I had done. I played lacrosse in college. And so I was a Paul Rabel fan, and we connected on Twitter. And I knew they were like just setting up the league and setting up their office. And so I just like offered to, once again, like work for free to get my name out there. And that obviously paid off as well. I think it's like, it's a trend throughout my art career of like, usually every time my career takes a little jump and I get to some next level of exposure, it's because of like working my ass off and not getting paid for it, for a long time. It's a lot of free work. Over the years. And I don't even look at it as free work. I look at it as marketing expense, Yeah,
I totally agree. And I mean, I've moved into more marketing related areas, like in my professional life and in kind of sports cards and stuff like that. So, when you said that doing the free work was really how you jumped into that like next level, like that, I graduated, I went to school for graphic design, and then I kind of got into like social media and doing social media design, stuff like that. So, I think all the times that I can think of, like, at least from doing like logos and stuff, one of my close friends in the sports card industry, Trees Collectibles, I actually did his logo, and he brought me on like more clients than I can even really think of. So, when you said like that specific thing about like doing the free work, it makes total sense. And it's such a weird thing when you're kind of hopping into like trying to make money as a designer. And it's like, the free work is actually what leads to more like high end stuff, which is sort of a kind of an odd thing there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's strange. And I think that a lot of, I think a problem in the artist world is that people don't really want to give stuff away for free, but they are willing to discount their work a lot. So they'll give you a painting for $100. And then I feel like that's like the opposite effect of like giving, if you give someone something for free that has this perceived value of thousands of dollars, they're going to be stoked and, pay it forward in some way. And if you give somebody work that you've significantly discounted, that's like you are having them give you money for it, but it's like a very small amount. I just don't feel like those people aren't going to be hyped to like tell their like friends or teammates or whatever to be like, check out this guy. I think they're just going to think, it's cheap work.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that makes, like I said, as coming from someone not the same background as you, but like kind of a similar marketing, sports design related, that advice I think definitely holds true in a lot of different industries. So,
Totally.
that Premier Lacrosse League led to some of the work you're doing with Tops. So was the Tops 2020 project or Project 2020, was that the first work that you had done with Tops at the time?
Yeah, it was. And honestly, so Jeff had seen my work in one of Paul Rabel's videos, did like the email or like what is it called? Contact form on a website, and just filled out a form, and like, subject line, it was like Tops collaboration. And I'm like, this is fake. Like I didn't even, I didn't think it was real. But yeah, I mean, it was great timing. I think with 2020 being such a crazy year for a lot of businesses, to have something like that as an artist where, I had basically work for the entire year for this project, and I didn't know how well the set was going to do. And so even with much tampered expectations, like thinking about what print runs might look like, I still knew it was going to be enough money to help me survive, the year, while other work was going to be, I knew, few and far between, which in many ways it was. Although once Tops really took off, then that has led to other opportunities, both from, new art collectors who found my work through the project and want to commission something, to print sales, all kinds of stuff. But yeah, it was a life-changing afternoon when I had that phone call with Jeff, which I didn't necessarily know it at the time, but I did have a feeling. I knew it was going to be really cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, I have a ton of questions about the Project 2020, because it was, honestly, when they first announced the set, it was coming from the graphic design background. I was like, in my opinion, I was like, this is going to be the coolest set I think that they're going to come out with the whole entire year. And like, they kept announcing the artists and they kept announcing the concept. So like, going in, like how much, obviously they're giving you all the information, like, and actually kind of another part of it is, so were you working on all the cards? Did you work on them all at the same time, or did they give you like a deadline of when you were going to be working on the cards specifically? I guess that'll be my first question on the project.
So we got, and typically get for the future sets that I'm working on now with Tops, is like they give us the list ahead of time, and then we have usually 3 of them we'll get due dates for. So for my current project with Tops, my first due date was February 1st, which just passed. My second card is due on February 15th. My third card is due on March 1st. So it's like every 2 weeks. And last year with Project 2020, at first I was trying to get a bunch of them done just to have them done. And then I realized that like having the fans involved in like being able to make decisions of, could be color choices or choosing between, different concepts. So then I like slowed down, pumped the brakes, and I was just submitting them as like working on them live, basically, so that the audience could participate. I think this year with the new set, Project 70, that I'm working on, I will try to get as many of them done as early as possible, so that I can just focus on promotion and content around them. And so I've really, like, in my studio here, I've stepped up my like game with like camera equipment and stuff to like really capture the whole process, and make it look really nice, so that like once that work is done, then we can shift our focus to like creating really cool content, video content around each card and the creation of it, and then use that whichever week the Tops card launches, kind of, have a bunch of promotional supplemental content, for the internet to enjoy.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So going into the Project 2020, what were kind of some of your expectations with the project overall?
Yeah, well, I thought the print runs just kind of, and this, I didn't really have any frame of reference, so I would just in my head thought from 200 cards being a low print run to 2,000 cards being a high print run. I thought that's the range they would fall in, and I was okay with that. obviously it exploded a lot, beyond that. So my expectations were low. I think everyone's were. I did not also anticipate how many of the other artists I would like connect with and build friendships with. And that part was a really nice surprise. And I didn't know that it would make me want to start and actually start collecting baseball cards again. That has been a fun, my collection's never been bigger. So yeah, I mean, there's so many things going into it where I don't know. I was looking at it as it's a job. I'm hired to paint 20 paintings, 2 per month for the entire year. And anything beyond that's extra.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, the 200 to 2000 print run, kind of when those first few cards started coming out, that's sort of what I was expecting. And
Kind of looked like
honestly,
that. Yeah.
I didn't expect the value of those to really do what it did. And the set itself became probably one of the most iconic sets that Topps came out with. So, at what point did you realize that this was going to be different than what you kind of expected going in? Like, was it when the Keith Shore Griffey, or was it like maybe a little bit before that? Like when things kind of got a little crazy?
It was definitely sooner than that. It was when I released my autographed version of the Nolan Ryan card, which is my first card. It was very early in the project, and no other artists were like selling autographs. And Tony, who was my publicist through the project, I met through Twitter because of Project 2020, had really pushed the idea of, these autographs are going to do really well. So we did it, and we ended up basically launching them at the same time as Tyson Beck. And I remember launching them one night, and we decided before we put them on the website, we were just going to start messaging people on Facebook and Twitter, DMs, Instagram, and just see if people are interested. And like, we didn't even get to put them on the website because they sold out so fast.
Wow.
And then there were like people that were upset that they were sold out that didn't get one. And so because like Tony and I were basically both just messaging people, and then people would say, yeah, okay, I'm in for a red. I want the gold. I want a silver. And so like he and I both were taking orders, and then we kind of like compared notes, and we're like, oh, we sold more cards than we even have. And then we had to go back and tell people based on like the time, we went and looked at timestamps and did it in order. And so that was definitely that night, because they all sold out before I went to bed the night that we listed them. And it was like, it was a lot of money. It was crazy. At the time, it just seemed unfathomable. And when that happened, like, then I knew it was going to be wild.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it was one of my favorite sets because of the graphic design element to it. And then it kind of became sort of this like set that people were making like a ton of money on, which I didn't expect. I mean, the artists like you, the artists like Ben Ball, or like Tyson Beck, they all have pretty decently sized followings on social media. So, I expected those people to get in on those cards because, for someone like you, or for someone like those two, you're not just able to buy like a print for $15. Like, for Tyson Beck, he's got a crazy background. I mean, obviously Ben Baller makes jewelry, so you're not buying a $15 piece of jewelry from him. So I thought that was going to be a great opportunity for people to get in and, selling the autographs. Was that something that Topps was like, because the set changed a bunch of times. There was a couple of collaborations, there was autographs, there ended up being parallels that they put in there. Was it all up front? They kind of let you know, like, this is kind of halfway through, we're going to be doing this, or like,
no. It was all changes made on. They were changes on the fly. Everything, the autographs. I mean, the artists, we just kind of took on, started doing it ourselves. Like if Topps, looking back, I'm sure Topps wishes that they made an autograph deal with us so that they controlled the autograph market for those cards. Which I'm sure at the time I would have been like, yeah, I get paid $10 a card to like just autograph 1,000 of them. Like, of course I'll autograph 1,000 cards, or whatever that deal looks like. But yeah, I mean, at one point, and part of it's because we were all adapting to like things that were working more than we expected. So it's like, adding the wall prints was a fun, a lot of people were asking for that online on forums, and Topps pays attention to what people are saying online and thought that was a good idea and ran with it. I think that the foils and the kind of the inserts, parallels and stuff that they ended up giving each artist one special card, basically. I think that was done because they saw how far the project could peak when it was at peak popularity. And after the bubble burst, we'd kind of come down on print runs, even though they still settled at a pretty high spot, I think. But I think Topps was just trying to do whatever they could to like give it a bump through the last maybe 20% of the project. And I honestly, I think that worked well. And it also made the economics of Project 2020 work for flippers again, because if you do the math on any single card where there was a 1 in 20 chance at a foil, if you buy a 20 pack, if you get the one foil as you should, over average over time, like you can sell that for more than the 20 pack cost by a lot, by a fact, by like 2x. And so like, I know near the end of the project, the print runs on those cards went well. And like a lot of people probably ordered hundreds of cards and then turned around and sold 10 foils, made all their money back. And now they're sitting on like, essentially free cards.
Yeah. And then, so like I said, I think everybody knows Project 2020, how crazy it got. So like when you started seeing the print runs increase like exponentially, like, that the Keith Shore, like almost 100,000 it got to. So like, what was your reaction to some of those like insane print runs? Because I think the Nolan Ryan had one. I think it was in this. Was it in the 60,000s or was that not?
Yeah.
Had that not hit the
kind of
zeitgeist before?
I mean, it was wild. It was like, there was a time when cards would go on sale on Topps. Anybody could buy them. As soon as the 48 hours ended and the cards were not available for sale anymore, all of a sudden on eBay, those $20 cards are selling for $50 and actually selling, like instantaneously. And it was like, for some people for a minute, it was like printing money. And then, that can only sustain itself for so long.
Right,
and so, that caused more people to say, oh my gosh, I'm going to buy thousands of these cards. It's like, I bet that there's people of some like that Nolan Ryan, that there was like 60,000 printed or whatever. I bet there's people that are not the artist that bought 1,000, like that own 1,000 of those cards. And I bet that there's probably a dozen people like that. I also bet there's people that are like that own some of the Mike Trout cards that I did that with Ben Baller that had like 75,000, 76,000 print run. Like, I think that people bought those in mass quantities because they thought, I'm going to turn like this will pay my mortgage payment tomorrow, or whatever.
Right.
It sucks to get stuck holding the bag. But honestly, I think, and this is maybe a hot take, a lot of people are too short kind of sighted to think this way. But if you look at like the junk wax era, 85 to 95, the cards were printed in hundreds of thousands or millions of copies, all of those sets. Those are going to be really hard to ever be rare. But I think that even like my Mike Trout card at a print run of 75,000, there will be a time during my lifetime that card there's more demand than supply. Because it's just not, it's not that many. If my art career took off, right, in a totally major way, like some really big artists that are out there right now, and there were like 75,000 Andy Warhol baseball cards. That was the first card he ever made, right? Like those would be so hard to find. 75,000 is really not that many. So I've always thought, like, I bought a lot of my own cards, and I have it spread out among all 20 cards, and I might have like 500 of a lot of my cards. I think in like a year or two, those are going to be double or triple what I paid for them, and I'll might start some of them, but like, I think the Project 2020 started something that is going to be special for a long time, and nothing will touch this original set.
Yeah, and to your point about that, the set becoming widely one of probably the most iconic sets. I 100% agree. And that's something that right after the set was done, I was like, people are like angry about this set and they don't like, some people, not all people obviously, but some people didn't really like it because of what happened. I think it was more just people not exactly like people who were trying to flip the cards didn't exactly understand the dynamics of the print on demand. And I think that actually will lead to the set being like an iconic set. Like typically you'll see that with like, and I'm not gonna, it's hard to kind of compare it to Prism, but like the first Prism set from 2012, like the first Topps basketball set from first one back in 92, or the 96 Topps Chrome. It's got kind of all of the ingredients for it to be like a set that in the future, maybe it's not like one of the $15 cards. Maybe it's not like $1,000 like some of the original ones, but I definitely
Sure.
think that, it could be worth 2, 3, 4 times the value, because
Totally.
people that got in 2020, and I think that's maybe one of the other things, a lot of people are going to, maybe they got in because that was one of the reasons why I really liked the set, was because an artist like you, or an artist like Ben Baller, or Tyson Beck, or F Dot, or any of these big artists that I love their work, or Keith Shore, they're bringing new people into the sports card, the marketplace, and kind of getting them all involved. So for someone like you said that it was you got back into cards because of the set. So like from what you've been doing, like what are some of the cards that you've been buying other than kind of stuff from the Topps 2020 projects?
Yeah. Well, this is a great thing about the hobby, is that like I don't have to buy that much. There's so many people willing to trade. And fortunately, I have a pretty cool supply of stuff to trade, because if people like collect sports cards, they like sports art. And if they have a really nice thing, I'd be like, okay, cool. Here's like a Michael Jordan painting, or Michael Jordan print, or this. I just have a lot of like cool stuff that I can trade with people. So I collect Mark McGuire, who's my favorite player from childhood and of all time. Josh Jacobs for the Raiders. He is a big supporter of my art and cool dude. And I also just think he's gonna be on the rise. I just think I have a ton of his, I have a huge Josh Jacobs PC that I think will look like a good investment down the road, which isn't necessarily really why I collect, but it's cool to keep in mind.
Totally.
John Morant, kind of same thing. Buster Posey, just another Bay Area, Giants, during kind of the Giants playoff run, where they were winning the World Series every couple of years. That's right when I had moved back to California from Arizona at the time, had quit my marketing job and started painting. And so I have a lot of memories of like painting in that first studio, and then also like going to Giants games. And I just really like Buster. Oh, sorry, I think I muted myself.
Sorry.
I also collect like artists. So, Gregory Siff, he did the World Series cards. Ben Baller did his Chrome cards. Tyson Beck has all his Fire cards. I have PCs of every single artist I can. Sophia Chang has some amazing companion cards. Same with Ermzy. So like I have almost everything for the artists that are involved also. And that's like my pride and joy too of my PC, is like the other art cards.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the sets that have kind of expanded from this original set with these artists that are in there, it's awesome to see that all of you guys, or some of the artists from Topps 2020, are coming back for Project 70.
Mm-hmm.
And it is definitely cool to see people like the Ben Ballers and to see like Gregory Stiffs get these other sets within Topps. Yep. And to be completely honest, I love the designs, and I'm seeing a lot of love for the designs in kind of the community. And obviously you get the haters who'll be like, oh, this person's getting another set, whatever. But it's like, I see both sides of it, but I'm definitely seeing more people interested in kind of these other types of sets. So, I mean, obviously great news for you. You were able to design, I believe it was the one of the original top sets you were able to redesign for that. So, what is it like getting your own top set? Like what's that feeling like?
Man, it's awesome. Yeah, so that was the 1951 Topps, which was the first year they had the MLB license. And now in 2021, it's the 70-year anniversary. And so this whole year with Topps is structured around like celebrating 70 years of baseball cards. And I thought it was a really big honor and cool way to kick it off by like me personally getting to redesign their first set. It's surreal now. There was these moments in Project 2020 that happened, and then all this, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. And the good example is like the first time I ever got my Nolan Ryan card and held my own first card in my hand. That was a crazy feeling. I feel that coming again, because I see on Twitter people are receiving wave 1 of the 1951 cards because they're releasing waves, and I'm jealous. I mean, people are ripping cards and they're pulling, like, there's numbered cards of me 1 to 100 that are like inserts that are artist cards. And so so far I've seen 2 people pull them, and I'm thinking, oh no, there's only 98 left, and I better get one. I have 100 boxes to rip of that out, but there was a print run of 7,500. So the chances are not great for me to get one. It's definitely not a sure thing. So
Right.
it's going to be like, it's going to be a cool feeling opening like actual opening packs too of my own cards versus getting a single card that I ordered.
Yeah, I think Topps has done a great job collaborating in the past year. I think if we're comparing Topps and Panini and Upper Deck and Leaf and all of these other companies, I think Topps's collaborations really put them like a step above what these other companies, just because, or at least from the marketing and kind of all that standpoint, because they're doing they're doing influencer marketing in a way. Like
Absolutely.
they're getting artists and they're getting people to collaborate with them. You know, they had the Steve Aoki set, they've had the Gary Vee set, they've had, you know, Ronaldo, Messi sets. So, you know, for you, what is it like? It's got to be really cool to get the sets and then, you know, see the product that you're able to produce. And is that something for you? It's like, are you someone that kind of likes to produce physical art? I mean, obviously you have a studio compared to like just doing digital stuff. Cause I mean, like for me, I did a lot of more digital stuff compared to physical stuff, but like, you know, I've designed t-shirts before and you get that and you're like, wow, I can't believe that how this turned out. So, you know, I'm interested for you. Is that something that, you know, you are looking to do more of, or is it kind of something that you focus on in general when you're doing art like that?
I'm definitely a tactile guy. I like to touch it and see it. And I feel like while I do know that digital is important and I have like an iPad that I work on sometimes in bed, and I would love to be better at digital art because I think there's a lot of advantages to that. Storage space being one of them. But I find myself in the real world being drawn to just doing things bigger and bigger and bigger. So like this is a kind of a new studio and we're setting up capacity to be able to paint some really big stuff. And I'm excited to make some huge works. It's going to be a little bit harder to find homes that the work fit in, but another perk of like working with pro athletes and doing that kind of as my niche is they have big houses and a lot of wall space.
Yeah, right.
So, you know, so that's good. Yeah.
So the production of the cards themselves, I got a couple other questions for you and then we'll wrap things up. But, you know, the production of the cards, was that something that you did like on a large scale and then shrunk it in digital? Like, I'm just very interested because I'm sure everybody had a different process. But for you, what was that like?
Yeah, so I did it pretty large scale. I was painting the Project 2020 cards 18 inches by 24 inches for the portraits. The final card I did on this foam board, and I strategically picked it because they were pretty big, but they were like really lightweight because I was thinking about having 20 of these, being able to transport them to shows or whatever. So I did on this foam board that's like 20 inches by 30 inches. So that's a pretty decent size. But for me, that was actually that was on the smaller end of anything that I paint. For 1951, because I had to do 52 portraits, I actually decided to go smaller. So I did those on 12 inch by 12 inch wood panels. And those look really cool because it almost looks like a base, you know, because I painted the panels white first, then I painted portraits on top. And then for Project 70, like I said, I feel this, and the only reason I went smaller is because there was 52 of them, and that's just so many. But with Project 70, I'm going bigger than I've gone before, and I'm doing 30 inches by 40 inches, that's like more typical of if someone hires me to make a painting, that's in the range of where it might be. And so I'm excited to have a full set of 20 giant, you know, moderately giant paintings. That's going to be a fun thing to look at on a wall, a big wall.
Yeah, totally. And so do you have like the original like paintings that you did for Project 2020? So is that like something that you have on display somewhere, or is that something that, or does Topps have those? Like,
it's in storage right now, but it's something that is probably going to be put up sometime this year. I just need to figure out where it's going to go because it's kind of this big cohesive thing. And the way I have it now in my house, like there's random art, you know, everywhere. So I need to like choose a destination for it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. So, you know, you've got Project 70 obviously coming up. I mean, I don't think they've announced really any of the big info for that. So I'm not going to ask you about any insider info for the podcast, but, you know, what has that process, has that process been, you know, you said that you were making them a lot larger than you were before. How much is the process going to be different, you think, for Project 70 compared to Project 2020?
Well, I think Project 2020 taught me how to basically make a factory for these cards. Like, I just have a much better understanding of how doing art, even big scale, how it's going to translate down to a 2.5 by 3.5 card. And so in a lot of ways, and from a design perspective, I have kind of simplified the aesthetic of the portraits, and yeah, just figured out like a really good system that works for me and my space and just the way that I like to create work. And so it's not actually taking me any longer to create a 30 by 40 painting than it did to make the 20 by 30s that I had for 2020. And a lot of that is just from like having systems and having practiced it now, you know, a bunch of different times over and over again. And then, you know, with 1952 doing like 52 paintings, I had to do that within the month of December. I did all 52. And
wow.
So that was an exercise in getting my systems, you know, my ducks in a row, and like I said, like treating it like a factory. And like I woke up every morning and I had my tasks, and I'm like, okay, I need to cut 12 stencils, I need to paint 8 portraits, I need to prime like 10 canvases for tomorrow. And I just had my system, and it worked. It's great.
Yeah, that's really cool. And so other than Project 70 for this year, do you have anything else that you're excited, like any other major projects or kind of maybe smaller projects that you're very interested that you're gonna be working on this year?
I'm very excited about another set of cards that I'm doing independently with a professional bowler. He's like the best bowler in the world, actually. His name's Jason Belmonte. He's awesome. And I did a couple pairs of custom bowling shoes for him last year. We met because of this Topps project, essentially. And so we're pretty excited to work together this year. And I think as soon as Project 70 really gets momentum and is rolling, and I've finished maybe 10 of the 20 paintings already, then I'm going to start working on that with you know, with a totally separate, you know, it won't be a Topps printed. We'll print them ourselves. We have a card manufacturer, but that's going to be a really fun project. So I think that's the one I'm most looking forward to outside of the Topps stuff.
Yeah, that's really cool. I'm excited to see kind of what you got cooking there. So a question that I ask all the guests that come on the podcast, what would you say is your dream card?
Oh man, that's a good question. I mean, I guess a Jordan rookie is like, you know, to me, like the most iconic. And I like grew up during that phase of my life when Bulls were like killing it. I was collecting basketball cards and Jordan was my guy. That's one collection that I lost over the years. TC. I'm sure like it wasn't anything crazy, but I think that would probably be the chase card. Or so in my 1951 set where they have the inserts of mine, I'm not sure if they're doing a 1-of-1 gold frame of each card, but if there's a gold frame of my own first baseball card, then that would be my dream card.
Yeah, that would be super awesome. So I want to thank you for coming on. Thank you for the time. Make sure you tell the audience where they can find you on social media or kind of throughout the internet.
Yeah, of course. So my website is blake.art, and on YouTube and Twitter are where I'm most active, and that is Blake Jamieson, and then also Athlete Portraits on Instagram.
Yep. So definitely go check out Athlete Portraits. You know, you get the behind the scenes look at some of the Project 2020 stuff. You know, you'll probably see all the Project 70 stuff that's coming up. So Blake, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks, Adam.